Hello everyone, Santer here, and welcome to the Life and Channel update video for September of 2024. That's the right month. I say double checking my calendar. Yep, that's not month on. I typically, I write the month a lot, but usually as a numeral and not, I don't know. Anyway, I write a lot of 9s and not a lot of Septembers, it feels like to my brain. This month has been kind of interesting. It's been very focused. I feel like some months there's a lot of different things going on, and I feel like this month there was more time spent on specific things. So the two biggest things that stick out in my mind are an article that I wrote. When did my thing say that came out? Like halfway through the month, something like that. Yeah, like the 11th, it looks like, is when it came out. So this article is titled "God is Asceticism versus God is Love." Was a really it felt like a capstone piece to me. Like when I think about a lot of the writing I've done on my blog, that's been of the more introspective nature. Not all of it has been. There's been a lot of other different things in there. But when I think of all of the things I've written on my blog that have been more introspective in nature, this article feels like a capstone to that. And just to give kind of a rough overview, it is talking about how Christian culture misrepresents God, and specifically has misrepresented God to me, and how God has had to work me through that. And there's a lot of dealing with morality and how you conceive of and conceptualize morality. There's a lot of stuff that's been kind of going on in my brain lately, just in general. So some of it's really difficult to talk about because it's difficult to find the language to talk about it. The primary way in which people conceive of morality is rules-based, right? This is right, this is wrong. And there's a much more contextual, different way of conceiving of morality that I think is closer to what God's morality actually is. That's rooted in love, and what does it mean to love other people in a godly way, and what does that look like? And understanding morality through that orientation, which requires a lot of discernment, a lot of sound judgment, and it's way more difficult because it's always situational. And it can look amoral from a law-based standpoint because it can appear like you're disregarding rules in order to pursue a type of morality that is centering love for other people, not obeying a set of rules. There's more that I could go into on that subject. It's a complicated one, though, and it is frankly very difficult to talk about because it is an alien form of morality from our typical rules-based morality that most of us are familiar with from childhood, when our parents told us, don't do that, do this, do pick up your room, don't litter. I happen to agree with don't litter, by the way. Please don't litter. Why are you doing that to everyone? I don't think that's very loving, but that's not my point here. We're used to a rules-based system of morality. So getting that article done was a really significant thing for me, and I spent a decent chunk working on that in the first part of the month, I guess. Yeah. Looks like I kind of started it towards the beginning of the month. The other big thing is that Guild Wars 2, or the Guild Wars 1 builds versus Guild Wars 2 builds video, which was that was an undertaking. That was a lot of stuff is brewing in my brain, and I was spending a lot of time thinking about that one. I'm really happy overall with the conclusions that I kind of came to. And the video is done reasonably well. I am surprised. So I uploaded 2 different thumbnails for it. YouTube has a system where you can A/B test thumbnails. Technically, you can do up to 3, it looked like, from the system. I assumed it was just 2 because I hadn't touched it before, but it looks like it's actually 3. So so I put 2 thumbnails on it. And what it's looking for is not looking for clicks. It's looking for percentage of watch time resulting from this thumbnail. And it looks like the edge is actually for the one that is branded as thinking about game design, with sort of the purpley background and the my mascot in the corner. So the gold coin that he is sitting on like a dragon fell off. So I have I guess it's what here for you. Anyway, I'll need to pick that up later. So anyway, that thumbnail is, last I checked, was actually performing better than the one that was made without that sort of branding, that was using the build screen kinda from both games, and the logos more prominently and things. So I found that really interesting. One of the things that they were saying in the comparison thing, though, is that this is taking into account because it's based on watch time that came from the thumbnail, is trying to capture how much the thumbnail is accurately representing to people what the content of the video is. So it's quite possible that, because I didn't see anywhere that said this, that the click-through rate was higher on the other thumbnail, but the retention was worse, which is something that I don't know if the analytics reveals or not, but is a possibility. It strikes me. Anyway, that was an interesting thing. But there's a good bit of prep to that video. I wanted to make sure that the character that I was on in Guild Wars 2 had all of the elite specializations unlocked. And I wanted to use character consistency in some regards. I don't know, it just seemed correct to me. But since finishing that video, I have actually gotten my first legendary item in Guild Wars 2. I made the Incinerator Legendary Dagger, thanks to longtime viewer Mr. Jack for supplying some ectoplasm to help me finish that off. And thank you to ArenaNet for the Wizard's Vault that gave me the kits that kind of jumped a bunch of stuff. One of the big final components I needed was a Gift of Battle, so there's a World versus World rush that's been going on this week that I have been doing, so I've gotten several Gifts of Battle from that. So I'm a little bit stocked up, I suppose. I have really mixed feelings on World versus World. As a format, it can be really disheartening, but it can also be kind of fun, and it also can be kind of repetitive. So I don't know. It's a very, very odd format in that regard. So like if you're caught solo and a bunch of people gank you, it's like, this isn't fun. But if it reminds me a little bit of Alliance battles from Guild Wars 1, just dramatically scaled up. And I don't know if it's better or worse than that. There have been other things today. This month. I mean, there have been other things today. I don't know. I didn't sleep super well last night, but I spent a lot of time in bed trying to rest and to compensate. But there have been other things this month. Other than that, those two things. Those are the big things. I'm just kind of scanning through. So for those who don't know, I have a Patreon where the main thing that I do on it is I write a daily diary entry of what's gone on that day. And I call it Dear Patrons. I'm very pedantic about many things, not the least of which is like, they're not your Patreons, they're your patrons. Patreon is the website where your patrons support you. Anyway, I mean, it's mostly just family and friends, but you can always go sign up if you want to. But the thing that I post is daily diary entries, so you kind of know what I'm doing and that sort of stuff. I don't know, maybe the details there are wonky, but I always write a title for me because I write them up in first and record the date, and I write up a description so I can review the month. And it's proven quite useful for these. So let's see, I got that article done. I started doing some raids and strike missions in Guild Wars 2. So that's been interesting. MMOs are impossible to design. Like the more I kind of look at Guild Wars 2, like Guild Wars 2 has it has a lot of interesting design challenges, let's generously say. They have a lot of systems that cause problems that they then have to solve by adding more systems instead of taking stuff away. You can see that with Mithril, where they then had to add a bunch of Mithril sinks. And it's not just Mithril, it's the other tier 5 common, or like, common is not the right word, base crafting materials. Your cloth, your leather, your wood, and your metal. So then they had to make a bunch of sinks for those because they accidentally added too many things, and or like you get too much of it and they don't have enough use for it, so they had to add a bunch of uses for it. And they have the research for like all of the stuff cluttering up the trading post for people to research or whatever. I don't know. It feels like they keep having to add new systems instead of taking things away. But I digress a little bit. In so much as I've forgotten what my main point. Oh yes, raids and strike missions. So it's been neat to finally get to see what some of those things are like. But that was actually a big impetus for the. I don't think it was the only impetus, but that was definitely a significant part of getting me to want to do that comparison video, because it was like, oh, what does it look like? Because I was beginning to think about how the attribute system worked and all that sort of stuff beforehand, but it definitely sort of accentuated it, as it was like, oh, I can't just slot around skills and traits. Like, it's not a matter of having the correct weapons, it's a matter of having the correct attributes as well as the correct traits and skills and everything in order to be able to make these meta builds. And it's like, how do you even experiment with these? So that definitely affected things. I unlocked the turtle mount, the siege turtle, so that's cool. I've been having my brain is like, okay, I was about to say a thing and then I want to give context for it before I say it. I have a world building thing that I've been working on as well, that is taking ideas that I have previously had and sort of condensing things down a bit. So hopefully it's a bit more streamlined. I saw something someone said on Twitter that, and I still call it Twitter because that's what it is in my heart. That's something to the effect of like, emulate the thing you love sort of thing. And I jokingly wrote like BRB making my own version of Arda or something to that effect. Because like my sister's been in a huge Tolkien kick in terms of not just reading like the books and stuff. We read Lord of the Rings together in mid 2020, something around there. I guess more mid 2020. And that's like my first time actually reading the Lord of the Rings books. So it was fun, like alternating chapters as we kind of read through it during some of that early Pandini time, pandemic. Loading Ready Run calls it the Pandini, and that kind of filtered into my vocabulary. But that has kind of precipitated that, plus like Rings of Power coming out, and she read the Silmarillion to me while I was like cooking and stuff at various times. So kind of going through all that has kind of gotten her in a big thing. So it's interesting hearing more. She's somebody who jumps into fandoms more deeply than I do. And it's been interesting hearing more about Tolkien and his like greater thoughts and philosophy and all that sort of stuff. So it's something where I kind of like jokingly wrote that, but then I'm like, but maybe kind of wouldn't be a bad idea to work on, like just slowly plugging away at this sort of concept. So I've like had kind of ideas, but it was the scope was too big. I think the more I'm thinking about it, like scope creep is a huge problem. I don't know if y'all know about scope creep, but in a creative endeavor, it's really easy to go too big and be trying to do too much. And so I had a bunch of different things. I'm like, oh wait, what if I condense these down? I'm like, I think this actually works better. So it's been a lot of like background thinking on that. I need to write more stuff down with it, but I've been working on that. Don't know if you're ever going to see anything from it or not. I hope so, but my track record of finishing creative projects is that of any substantialness is not great. So another thing that I did was I watched If, which is short for Imaginary Friend. It's the Ryan Reynolds movie. It came out not that long ago, but we borrowed it from the library because I was interested in seeing it, and I watched it. And it was a really interesting movie in that I enjoyed it. It made me tear up several times, just the emotionality of it. But like the more I've kind of thought about it, no specific spoilers per se, but kind of thematic spoilers, I guess. The more I've thought about it, it looks superficially like a kids movie, but I don't think it is, because I think it's dealing with very like a topic that adults have to deal with, because it feels like it's fundamentally about reconnecting with your childhood self and kind of reconnecting with who you were as a kid. Like as you get older, the forces of the world try to push you away from that person, right? Away from the dreams and aspirations. And we create society is an imaginary thing that we live by, right? We subject ourselves to society, and it is a delusion of our collective imaginations. In some ways, it's real, and in other ways, it's very much not. And that causes us the pressures that we put on each other, we put on ourselves, can cause us to lose touch with the pure essence of who we were as a child before all that weight kind of came in and crumpled us up, I suppose. And if as a movie feels like it's fundamentally about reconnecting with that childhood essence, and I found that to be very interesting. It is, like I said, it is a theme that is one that's for grown-ups or for people of greater age, because it's not a theme that I could see resonating and connecting with kids. Like kids might enjoy the movie, but I feel like the imaginativeness of it, but the themes felt very much so aimed at adults, and aimed at adults who don't want to lose. Like, this is actually kind of connected to something I've been thinking about some lately as well, as I've just been kind of analyzing my own self, where it's like, what makes somebody an adult, right? And where's the line between adult and kid? And I wrote in one of my articles that one of the challenges that I've had is that I always kind of assumed I'd grow up to be my dad, I guess, and I just haven't. But part of it is I've always kind of assumed there was going to be some sort of hard break in my life where I would be Link walking up to the Master Sword as a 10-year-old. I'd pull it out and I'd turn it into a 17-year-old adult. Not that we call a 17-year-old an adult in America, but that's an arbitrary metric anyway. And that moment never happened, right? And there's just kind of a drifting. But what I've kind of been thinking about is, in some regards, I feel like, what does it even mean to be an adult? And I think there's this sort of effect where what I'm more interested in are people who are what I can only describe as a mature child, which is kind of a weird oxymoronic phrase. Sort of self-contradictory. But IFES kind of feels like it's speaking into this concept where it's like, you shouldn't let go of childhood. You should let go of immaturity. That's kind of the way I'd phrase it. That's kind of a weird sort of thing. But I think what happens is too many people hold on to like immaturity and let go of childhood, and you should do it the other way around. I don't know. That's just kind of some of my thoughts. I thought it was, like I said, a very touching movie, and I am glad that I watched it. Other things that just kind of come to mind. My LGS finally had enough people sign up for Standard to happen. So I'm excited about that for Magic the Gathering. You can see all the cards that I need to be putting away. But we had our first Standard event last week. I'll be heading to the pre-release in an hour. Be setting out in about an hour, hopefully about then, to go to the pre-release for Duskmourn. But it's exciting to do Standard, not the least of which because it is substantially cheaper event entry fee than Draft is, which is nice. So I'm looking forward to hopefully doing more of that. Not going to do anything super fancy. I don't really care about looking at metas, but I am super excited that Pyroclasm is back. That's going to be very helpful. Gonna play a red-green. I want to make a red-green Delirium deck because there's the Scarecrow that just speaks to me. When I first started playing Magic, I was playing Gruul, and I mean that literally because Scab Clan Mauler was like in that deck because friggin' I started in 2007 and it was just a few years after the original Ravnica came out. So I have a special place in my heart for the Christmas colors of red and green, and go and aggro that way. And there's the Scarecrow. It's a 3/2 for 2 with haste. And Delirium makes +1/+1 and trample, and that's so cool to me. That's so exciting. That speaks to me. But I also like my 5-color piles. So, anyway, I'm excited about that. Excited for more of that. I also have been thinking about streaming with regards to Guild Wars 2. So I have basically 3 games that I'm wanting to kind of be streaming. I want to... a while back, I streamed through Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor. And I wanted to stream through Middle-earth Shadow of War, but during that first episode, my graphics card in my previous computer was dying, and it did not stream well and had so many issues. And I haven't gone back to actually try streaming that, but I'm wanting to, because that game is awesome, and I really liked it. And I want to play through it again, and I want to do that on stream. So I want to do that. I want to continue streaming the Guild Wars 1 Unlock All Skills playthrough. And I also want to figure out what I'm streaming with Guild Wars 2, because I want to stream Guild Wars 2. I'm enjoying playing the game, despite its over-design and its horrible buildcraft problems. I am enjoying playing the game. And so I think it would be fun to stream it, but I'm not sure what to stream in it, because there's this weird kind of tension where there's like, are people interested in seeing me do dailies? Are people interested in seeing me do weeklies? Do people want to see, like, I want to stream like playing through the story. That's going to take a while and a half, but like I do want to do that. I want to try to work on some of the achievements and stuff too. Like, what are people interested in seeing me stream in that game? I don't know. There's also some amount of like, because I want to finish the Return to the Seasons of the Dragon meta achievement, so that way I can get the Legendary Amulet, because that would be very nice to have. So like, how much do people want to see me like streaming? That seems really awkward, because a lot of what I have left to do is like, okay, let me look in this wiki where this thing is, and it's difficult for chat interaction, and it's kind of awkward. I don't know. And there's just some amount of where it's like, I just want to play this game casually, not like actively, as you do for streaming. So I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do with that. I want to be putting more time towards streaming in general, in theory, but I need to actually like do that. So hopefully I'll buckle myself down and actually figure out streaming more often. I keep saying and not doing it, but it'd be good for me to do. The only other thought is I have the next, I hesitate to call it an article. It's more of a journal entry that I'm working on for my blog that like, I mentioned earlier, but I had a really hard time falling asleep last night, and I ended up spending a substantial, like, I was like, okay, it's midnight, I am not sleepy, I have too much stuff going on in my brain, I'm just going to sit down and like spill a bunch of it out, and I did that until about like 1:40, something like that. So it's very sort of stream of consciousness. But I'm working on that, and I want to get that done soon. But anyway, figuring out how to prioritize stuff, I'm bad at that. But that's some of the stuff that's happened. That's some of the stuff that I want to have coming up. I am going to play for my own self the new actual Zelda, Legend of Zelda game where you play as Zelda, whose name I forget. It's okay. But my sister's going to want to watch that, so we're going to have to figure out coordinating that. So that'll be coming up for me personally. So maybe I'll tell you about it next month or 2 or something. Depends upon how long it takes us to actually get through that. Okay, well, I think that kind of mostly covers things. Feels like it. I could probably ramble at you for quite a while. If there's anything you want me to ramble at you about, let me know in the Discord. That's linked. I have a Discord server. It's linked in the doobly-doo, the description, the whatever. Let's not call it a bio. Let's not do that. Okay, bye. I mean, my proper sign-off is take care, everyone. Goodbye.